Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Deeper Podcast. And in this mini series, we're going to go dive deeper into the archetypes. So, the warrior, the king, the magician, and the lover. And today, I'm speaking to none other than Traver Boehm. Hi, Traver.
Hello. Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure. Always.
I've known Traver for quite a bit now. He was actually one of the men supporting me at the beginning of my journey who really believed in me, called me into my power, supported me. And I'm just so grateful. And I love that now I get to interview him.
The tables have turned. Thank you.
It feels like a really good full circle.
For
So
sure.
Traver is an author, speaker, and founder of the Uncivilized men's movement. And his mission is to create safe, sovereign, and undeniable men. I love that sentence.
Amen. Thank you.
And so you can imagine Traver to me is the embodiment of the warrior. The embodiment of the warrior. Because that's why I want to do this mini series, to give you an example, an embodiment of what something like this in real life could look like. Because it's one thing to read it in a book, but what is it to truly be it, to move like it, to live your life from it, to explore it, to embody it? And honestly, we need more of the warrior right now in this world. So without much further ado, welcome, Traver.
Thank you.
Just shortly, just to begin, who you are, and I'm taking this from you, so it's a little cheeky. What are you creating?
I am building a movement. And Sophie, this thing has actually just hit Europe. Mm-hmm. I am building a movement of 1 million men who express their masculinity through the primal and the divine together. And my idea is to literally change the culture of masculinity, to give men a third paradigm other than the broken 1950s Marlboro Man paradigm or the equally broken yet more societally accepted sensitive new age nice guy paradigm. I wanted to take and rewild the primal, like undomesticate men, but yet say, hey, the further down the undomestication road you go, the more responsibility is required of you. So you have to drop into a depth of consciousness to match that. Right? One of my tenets of the movement is show me love without strength and I'll show you a victim. Show me strength without love and I'll show you a tyrant. Mm-hmm. So in between the two, though, when we have love and strength together, especially in men, we have this beautiful symbiosis of power and responsibility, of consciousness and strength. And I think it's beautiful that we're talking about the warrior archetype, because so often the warrior archetype, in my opinion, we look at the shadow side of it, which is just strength, which is just tyranny, which is just aggression, which is just violence. And we miss the necessity of the warrior archetype, both in personal relationship and in culture.
Yeah, I gave a workshop yesterday to 66 people at a festival on the dark masculine. And just the sentence, like, your power is needed here. We need your power. Like, stop playing small, was such like a light bulb for so many people there, because they were like, wait, what? I'm allowed to take up space as a man. I'm allowed to put my power into place. And I'm like, not just allowed, we need you there. Like,
Right.
I work a lot with the masculine and feminine. The feminine is craving it. I've been watching Vikings for the past month. all I dream about is Ragnar Lothbrok now. But anyways,
that makes two of us. So dreamy. Yeah.
So anyway,
the top knot.
yeah, the top knot, and then the like dress.
And a sword. I would just walk around to Colorado with a massive sword. No biggie. Don't worry about it.
No biggie. Yeah. So it's very attractive, and that's what the interesting thing is, right? I think anybody can see that the warrior is so attractive, and yet we seem to kind of reject it. There's something about it.
We're still afraid of it. Like you spoke of the dark masculine. Just to give people context, I was 10 minutes late on this call because as I was driving home from the gym, a woman had put her pickup truck off of the road. And I was like, shit, what do I do here? She clearly needs help or I'm going to be late for my call. And the warrior archetype is someone needs help. You have the ability to help them. Turn around and go help her. Because one, if the roles were reversed, you'd want this to be the case. And 2, this is actually why you're here on earth. So live this out and be 10 minutes late for the call. No different than maybe 3 or 4 days ago. I didn't share this with you. I haven't shared this with anybody. So I went downstairs in my little house here in Colorado and started making coffee and stepped on a candle on the kitchen floor and went, okay, this is unique. I didn't put this candle on the kitchen floor. And then looked, and there were 2 more candles on the floor that I did not put on the floor the night before. So I went upstairs and got a gun and cleared the house to make sure no one was in the house, because my first thought was, as a 5:42 a.m. pre-coffee, was someone broke into my house and put some candles on the floor and then left, or maybe is still in here fucking with the candles. So I literally walked around clearing every room and then took a look at the candle and was like, oh, there's little teeth marks on this. I have a mouse.
Oh my God.
But for about 30 minutes was waiting to shoot somebody. And it was that instant, someone's in my house. I'm not alone in my house right now. I have someone upstairs asleep as well. I need to make sure she's okay. Let me go clear the fucking house without question. It wasn't, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to wait. I'm going to hide. It's no, I'm going to go find this problem and eliminate it, because now it's not just my safety that's at hand. It's somebody else's. So that's the warrior archetype, right? That is what we call on, and we need to call on in men, especially right now. The challenge is, and here's where things get a little bit nuanced. I believe that we've passed through societally. We went like this, and people can challenge me on this. I'm still playing with it. We started with the hunter archetype. We need to go get food. We need to go kill animals. We need to bring stuff back to the tribe. Then we centrally, I'm just ripping through history here. We centrally located. We no longer needed to go hunt, but we needed to protect the walls of the village, of the thing. So we threw a warrior out there and said, your job is to be a sentry. Your job is to protect. But then we thought, the people over there, they have some shit we may want. So we called in the soldier archetype, and we went and took stuff. And the soldier archetype in Western culture, where we're not, like here in the US, we're not really under attack very often, or if at all. Yet we have a military all over the world. So it almost feels like culturally, so in the civilian culture, men have called in the soldier archetype and bypassed the warrior archetype. The soldier archetype is the one that's like, hey, that thing you have, be it money, food, your body, I get that because I'm stronger than you and I have a gun, so I can go take what I want. And so we've almost confused the warrior archetype and the soldier archetype, in my opinion.
Oh, I really feel that. I was just listening to your podcast. Actually, I forgot who it was about with the horses.
Dewey Freeman.
Oh, yeah, it was so good.
Wild man. Fuck,
extraordinary. It was so good. And he spoke about power versus control and how, I'm going to mix them up, but one was about like actually imposing something and taking something. And one was actually a consensual thing of like, hey, I'm going to be in the lead here, which is a very different dynamic. So I love that distinction almost from the warrior to the soldier, because I think that's why we're afraid of the warrior, because it feels like maybe the Viking archetype, like I'm going to go in and pillage and take for the sake of pillaging and taking.
Right, because I can.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about the warrior. The warrior is chosen because he or she can. Right? I stand on the wall with the gun or the spear or the whatever and protect the village because I can. Because I'm stronger than most people. I'm bigger than most people. I'm willing to do violence on behalf of the tribe in a protective manner. Because I can, in the wrong hands, turns into entitlement. It turns into greed. It turns into violating boundaries and consent. It's simply, I can stand here because I'm stronger, then gets switched to I can take whatever I want because of that same strength. And so when I go back to primal and divine, that's the overextension of the primal without it being tempered by the divine, without it being tempered by consciousness, right? If I'm in the same room with you, I'm bigger than you. I most likely outweigh you significantly. I have more muscle mass than you. What's stopping me from hurting you or taking something from you? my consciousness, my morality, my sense of value in the world, who I am in my heart, not who I am in my biceps. So that's where I think we've also gotten confused and gotten off track culturally, is we haven't allowed the masculine to really dive into consciousness yet. We haven't said, hey, here's this whole space where we need you. We need you present. We need you conscious. We need you diving deep into your own wounds. We need you actually to dip your toe in the pool of pain. Learn how to alchemize that in the same way we've asked women in the last 40, 50 years, hey, we need you to dip your toe in the pool of power. See what happens to your lives when you become powerful. You guys were like pain masters. We if you weren't in pain, we put you in pain. Or you got pregnant, or you had a menstrual cycle, or you had physical issue. You know, you guys know pain, but yet power was your missing gift. And so for the masculine, we know power, right? Or fucking patriarchy, all the things, right? Power, power, power. But we don't know pain well. We don't know how, and pain to me is the gateway to consciousness. So until we're willing to dip our toe in and then go, okay, I'm still alive. I need to create a relationship with pain. The warrior needs to create the same relationship with pain we've asked the feminine to create with power.
I love that distinction. In my, I run men's groups, and I notice then when I speak about the warrior, I usually speak about it like, can you face your own shit? Right? Because somewhere in I call it the toxic warrior, is kind of this like, no, I'm fine and I'm facing everything head on, but it's always outside of you, like, oh, I can battle anybody, I can handle anything. But can you actually turn that warrior inside and face your own shit? Can you face the battle that's in your own heart? Can you face your shadows? Can you face the insecurity? Can you actually see it and still feel that you're strong? And actually stand in front of it and notice that you don't have to do anything. And so that's why I find the warrior so interesting, because I think it's actually what I notice, especially in modern men, it's very hard to do it for yourself.
For sure.
We have a concept of like going to the battle, or of like fighting for something, or standing for something, or whatever it is. But actually within you, can you go into like the darkness for battle?
For sure. It takes the same energy. It takes the same courage. It takes the same willingness to die to your ego. It takes the same willingness to get hurt. It takes the same willingness to get punched in the face. You know, it's what's unique is I've been in circles where we've made men wrestle. And so you create a circle and say, you and you go in the middle and wrestle. And this isn't to a point of violence. It's just to a point of you need to feel your own physical power. And in the beginning, asking men of their experience of this being on the outside, excuse me, they'd say, wow, I was so nervous. I was so like apprehensive. Is someone going to get hurt? What's going to happen here? And then after a round or two, where you realize this is just play, it's tussling, your hearts are still in it. It's friendly to some extent. They go, oh yeah, now I want to get in there. Now I'm cheering for the guys in there. Like, go get it. Go really like, get after each other. Now here's what's interesting. You take that same group and you put them in a circle again, and you say one by one, someone's go in the middle and face their shadow. Someone's going to go talk about their shit. And what happens in the beginning, everyone's like, oh, fuck. Oh, no. Oh, boy. Here we go. Oh, God, I hope he's okay. Oh, shit. And then after a round or two, they're like, get the fuck in there. Go to work, go to battle, like get after it. The energy shifts and it feels like the warrior archetype comes online, and you realize that those two scenarios are identical and they require the same energy.
I love that. I love first of all that you're doing things like that, and I can just see it. Yeah. Why do we need the warrior right now in the world? Why do we need him right now?
What is the number one issue in the world right now? I would say with COVID and all of the fuckery and all of the changes and all of the shifts that none of us asked for, people feel one of two things: uncertainty and a lack of safety. So just that alone, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, I remember March 13th when I had a lot of plans to travel the world and do a book tour. And then suddenly March 14th, everything changed forever. So uncertainty is now a thing. Now, what's underneath uncertainty is just a lack of safety. And if I don't feel safe because the world is changing so rapidly, then I'm going to lash out. Then I'm going to do things. I'm going to leak. I'm going to soothe that. I'm going to numb that, etc. As opposed to taking that sense of lack of safety and saying, okay, who does feel safe right now? Whose nervous system can I borrow? Who can I reach out to and say, you know what, I just don't feel okay in the world right now, and have that person then go, I got you. You're going to be okay. So we need warriors planted all over the world. And kind of, it's like, I have this image of like, they're the beacon and they send out like a radar ping, like ping, 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 ping. And everybody in that circle knows I'm okay. I feel safe. I at least have this person to ping off of, as opposed to being completely alone in the world. And that's the sentence I've probably said most this year and have heard from people in my own circle, like, hey, we got you. And I've said back, like, hey, I got you. I got your back. Shit goes weird. I got your back. Things go, I remember here in the US, the election was like, God, it was like 2 weeks ago. Had people staying in my house just for that week to get out of the city in case there were riots, in case there was looting, in case it just fell apart. I was like, hey, you're going to be okay in this house. We have food. I have a couple guns. We've got great books. We have the internet. I've got like acupuncture needles. Everything's going to be great. And so and I know a number of people who did the same. Like, hey, I invited people into my home for the week. That's the warrior mentality. I didn't sit on my deck with a fucking gun and just like wait for people to walk by. But it was, hey, this house, this home, this city, this neighborhood is safe because I'm in it. Or it's safe because you're in it. It's safe because that man's in it. That woman's in it. I'm not just saying this for men only. That's why it's so necessary. Like, we need these stakes in the ground. Otherwise, there's too much space with a lack of safety, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes so much sense. And I notice it moves me because I can feel how we're lacking this. Yeah, right? Because it's almost because the way I see the warrior, it feels like a bit of a solitary thing. And then the way you're describing it, I can also feel how it creates community, because there's this beacon of safety.
Sure.
And just feeling like, wow, how amazing would that be if there is somebody in your community that's like, no, but I've got it right now. I've got it. Sure. I've got it. You come here. I've got it. And I was like, wow, I could feel how much we miss that. And I think that's exactly the world where we live in, where everybody's like kind of finding their own little thing all at the same time and just acting out. Like, where are the beacons of safety of just like, no, I've got it and I'm calm. And there's also, what I love about the warrior is that there's a calmness to it.
Yeah.
He's very grounded. There's time. He's just alert, but he's not like, what's it called? Like overreacting. There's time.
One of the mantras that I took from my old bodyguarding company and brought into the Uncivilized Nation is, let others be safer, for I walk among them. And it's just this idea. I remember being out doing security details with those guys and just thinking, like, anything goes down, there's 5 guys in this room that nobody knows are armed, are trained, and are just going to fucking take over and make sure everything's okay. And so I instill that same mentality in the guys in the nation and say, everywhere you go, no matter what happens, whether someone drives their car off the road, whether someone's choking and needs the Heimlich, or whether someone walks in with a weapon or some creates a scene, you're there, and you're there for a reason. And your job is not to broadcast that. Your job's not to have a t-shirt on that says, like, if things go bad, I'll jump in. It's just quietly to sit there and know that that's your role. And you've accepted that role no matter what happens to you. But I have a chapter in the book called Face the Door. And that was another bodyguarding thing, is I never wanted my back to the door, ever. It still freaks me out to have my back to the door in any public setting. And it was just like, it's not about the physically locating yourself somewhere. It's about the mentality that says, I need to position myself where I can see something, because I've taken on the responsibility by having the warrior archetype that no matter what happens, I'm going to handle it, or I'm going to get people out of here as fast as possible. So that's where we go. It's tempered by consciousness. It's protective. protective isn't insertive, right? I don't run around to all my neighbors and be like, hey, I need to live here because I have guns and I'm going to make sure everything's okay. And I want your food. And like, can I borrow your internet? No, I just sit quietly in my house. And no. And right. Or I've said to them like, hey, if things go weird, I'm here. That's all we need to know. And so that's why I love the warrior archetype. But why it's been confused is how many idiots are running around pretending that they're Rambo or getting in the way of things as opposed to sitting in the background and watching. Right? Something in the men's world, if guys know fighters or guys know military guys, it's never the guy who's telling you how much of a badass he is that you worry about. It's the quiet guy in the corner. Like the one who's just sitting there going, just taking it all in. The bro from New Jersey who's like, bro, somebody hold me back. Like it's the first guy who's gonna run away. It's the quiet guy who's just sitting and observing. That's who we're worried about, and that's who's gonna handle things.
Yeah, it's something I've been going into myself as well. Understanding men, but I think one of the big things that and I would love to hear your view on this, but that I think masculinity needs to go into is not sourcing your more thanness outside of you or your enoughness outside of you. So like I'm the strongest one in the room, or I am better because I make more money than her, or whatever. I am the masculine, or I am powerful because I'm more than in one way or another. Sure. But actually just source it in yourself, because then you actually don't have to broadcast it. You don't have to be the tough guy in the room because you know you've got that room. You know you're physically strong enough. You don't have to show off your guns. You know you're physically strong enough. It's not about proving it to anybody anymore. And then, because I work a lot with the masculine and feminine, then it's okay if she makes more money. It's okay if she's big as fuck, right? It's okay if she's loud or whatever it is that she is, because you've sourced your enoughness within you, not I'm the biggest one in the room.
For sure.
And I think there's something there. Yeah.
We had a call last night. I had all the guys in the nation, and Dallas Hartwig, if you know Dallas, he created the Whole30. It's like a wellness system. Anyway, I have the whole group doing what we call No Leak November, which is no porn, no masturbation, no inappropriate sourcing of the feminine, or no unconscious sourcing of the feminine. And the idea I gave to the guys last night is this isn't about white knuckling, not jerking off for a month. What this is about is walking up to the buffet of life and realizing that you've already eaten. And so you can notice, you take in all the smells, you take in all the sounds, you look at the beautiful food, you look at all of it. And if you want, you can indulge in some of it, but you don't need to. It's very, very different than standing there having not eaten for 3 days and just being like, I don't give a fuck what's on the plate here. I'm just going to shove it in my face. I just need. Two very different distinctions and two very different experiences. So the food in this case is exactly what you said. It's sourcing your own esteem. It's sourcing your own power. It's sourcing all of this from within so that you can stand in front of a beautiful woman, a sexy woman, a powerful woman, a woman who makes 10 times as much money as you do, and go, I'm full. Now let me enjoy you for who you are and what you are, rather than what I need from you to make myself feel okay right now. That to me is fucking power.
Yeah.
It's hard to articulate, right? Especially when so many men are coming from a place of lack with the feminine, or with esteem, or with power. But yet, it is the key to the kingdom. Yeah. It is, I'm okay right now. That's like the baseline sentence. Like, I'm actually okay. I'm good. I'm full. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
And wow, you're beautiful. And that's a complete sentence. Yeah. It's not, wow, you're beautiful, and I want, this, because it's just a complete fucking sentence. And you know what? Life is beautiful. Yeah. Period. I don't none of that shit. I'm good. Yeah. Solid.
Yeah. I can tell you from the feminine perspective, when a man is truly in that, it's so much more attractive. When you feel that he's sourced, for instance, like his pleasure within himself and his satisfaction within himself, and then he stands in front of you and is like, yeah, I think you're really attractive. That's so much more magnetizing that somebody is like, I want some of that. I need to have you, because that you could feel the neediness, you could feel the graspiness, and like, ugh.
It's
Like
gross.
Yeah.
Because the word is, it's gross. It's repulsive. For men and women. It could either way. It's like, you know when someone wants something from you, or when they're showing up to provide with you, to create with you. Like I'm sure you get this from random people reaching out about like, hey, let's do business together. You know, I had a guy reach out a week ago and was like, hey, I really want to collaborate with you. And I think we can both amplify our messages. And I was like, cool, what are you thinking? He goes, I don't know. I was like, well, shit. What can I, why did you reach out to me? He goes, well, before we take this conversation any further, would you be willing to agree to a profit split if we ever like did something? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Take a breath, go home, figure some shit out, come back to me and tell me how you want to combine and collaborate rather than take and get. And that's, I imagine, as a woman, is like being the millionaire in the bar. You know, everybody's like, okay, what's the angle here? Tell me your proposal. Tell me what you just need a little bit for marketing. You want to like, oh, you're actually another millionaire. Cool. Let's sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Let's actually meet as equals and talk about some other shit.
Yeah. I love that. I love that metaphor. Hey, I'm curious. I know this is one of my favorite parts in your book, and your book's called Man UNcivilized, and I recommend it to everybody. And I speak about this part so often, but I'd love to hear it in your own words. The journey with your own danger as a warrior. Yeah.
Be dangerous, but not in danger.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I think it's the third tenet. It came from my background of professional fighting and bodyguarding, where I was around extremely dangerous humans, dangerous men, primarily, for a very good chunk of my life. And yet, these guys were not a danger. They were not out starting fights. They were not out bullying. They were not out taking. They were not out having power over. Like, I remember literally sitting in a restaurant thinking, these are 5 of the most dangerous humans I've ever been around. Thank God everybody in here is so safe, rather than, holy shit, everybody in here is in danger. Because they had, one, gone through the full journey of training, right? Not the, like, I watched some YouTube videos and read a Bruce Lee book and now I think I'm a badass. No, these guys, myself included, had gotten our asses handed to us over and over and over and over again. So the steel within us had been tempered by having our ego beaten out of us. Yeah. Anybody who's done 6 months of jiu-jitsu has lost 1,000 times. They've been beaten by women. They've been beaten by boys. They've been beaten by men. You just get beaten every day, over and over and over and over and over. And if you make it to the 6-month mark, something's very different about you as a person. You either were a type of person who is different, or you've been tempered and realize that, one, this isn't a game, and that your ego will get you nowhere. It'll just get you choked. And so I love that tenet, because so many men are dangerous because they're not a danger, because they don't realize how strong they are, so they need to go prove it. They don't realize how much power they have in the world, so they have to go force it. When men feel small, when men feel unseen, you know how we prove how big we are and how seen we are? We do it with our fists, we do it with guns here in the US, or we do it with our dicks, all of which are very destructive. Yet you take a man who actually is deeply steeped in his own power and his own esteem, and that man he's dangerous. He's dangerous to society, like to the culture that wants to make him small. He's dangerous if he needs to be. Yeah. But he's not a danger because he's got all of that tempered with consciousness. Right? He actually knows the power and the value of it. As opposed to, I don't know, so I have to prove it. Right? Again, it's like the loud barking guy in the fight rather than the quiet guy who's just like, actually, you know what? I don't want to do this because I know what happens when we engage. So let's rethink this. Think of how many egos and or alcohol are responsible for physical altercations, for shootings in clubs, for mass violence, for the riots we see in the streets. It's just ego. And if you look at people, especially here in the US, if I don't know if you followed any of the
Of course.
Antifa and that, when I look at these guys, I'm like, wow, none of you weigh over 135 pounds. None of you don't live in your mom's basement. Like, you're a bunch of video game players who are now out in the street running around trying to prove how tough you are, where most, quote, men, unquote, are sitting at home taking care of their shit and going, hey, if we actually went out there, this would be done in about 20 minutes. So go ahead, play your little games, but you guys are dangerous because you don't know how powerful you could be, and you don't know how powerful you want to be.
Yeah, this is my issue with the new age soft, sweet, gentle, nice guy category is that
it's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah, because you can feel for the toxic warrior or the suppressed warrior, you can feel that there's anger, but we're all pretending it's not there. We're pressing it down. And I notice if I might just like press you in the wrong way, press the wrong button, it's gonna
exactly.
And that's like, especially the feminine, because she's super sensitive. You feel that constantly. Mm-hmm. You feel that constantly. Like the love and light people to me are the most dangerous people to be around, because you can feel that there's this suppression of, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm never pissed off. I'm never pissed off. And it's just building up. It's building up. And one day when you're not as in control, it's just going to go
boom. Right. And when that happens, that's dangerous. People get hurt.
Yeah.
And it does happen because you are getting poked at, and you have to get poked at. You have to get tested. You have to get challenged, and you're lying. Yeah. Right. There's this whole other room of your life that you pretend doesn't exist, but it's also pulling the strings. Yeah. You can't not admit that you have pain. You can't not admit that you have hurt. You can't not admit that you have anger. You can't bypass your own humanity just because you read Untethered Soul. You actually have to fucking do some things in the world. No offense. The
books I could never go through.
No offense to Untethered Soul. I'm with you. The love and light community, it drives me insane.
Yeah.
It's like, I know I can feel it's like when I used to tell my ex-wife all the time, I'm not angry.
Yeah.
And she'd say, I can fucking, it's dripping off of you.
Yeah.
Like, so just, and I'm like, nope, I'm not. I said I'm not fucking angry.
Yeah. Hear that sentence.
God, it's so embarrassing to say now, like to look back. And like, yeah. Really, jackass?
Yeah, they're like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, okay, so why are you angry at how fine you are?
No.
Hey, so how does it show up in relationships, the warrior? Or maybe how's the warrior in front of the feminine?
I'd say similarly that, so in that interview we mentioned earlier with Dewey Freeman, talking about horses. This is, he actually, before that interview, we walked up to his horse circle, whatever it's called, and got to not play with, but work with a horse. And he said, horses need to know two things before they'll relax. And you can physically watch them relax. They'll drop their head. They like shake. It's beautiful. So they need to know they feel safe, and they need to know where their place is in the pack. And I went, why do they need to do that? He said, because horses are prey animals, Prey. And my first thought was, holy shit, horses are a lot like women. In society, you are prey animals. We are too, to some extent, because men kill a lot of men. But I can handle myself with a man. I'm not a woman. So what I'm saying is the warrior archetype shows up in a way that says to a feminine partner, you're going to be safe with me. You're going to be safe, which is probably the lesser extent from external challenges, but also you're going to be safe from the internal challenges, which is where most women get violated, which is within the relationship, right? I live in the woods. The chance of someone coming in here and rearranging my candles is like 1,000,000 to 1. But the chances of a partnership having violence, danger, coercion, subjugation, awfulness, abuse are very high. So the denied warrior archetype, I think, leaves space for that abuse to come in. The accepted warrior archetype fills in that space and says, hey, if I'm going to protect you out there just by being who I am, I also need to do it in here by checking myself.
Yeah.
Most likely, not in all cases, but most likely as a male, I'm the dangerous one here in this relationship. I'm not taking away from abuse that men experience or in same-sex relationships. But to me, it's saying, I need to realize how fucking different we are physically. And therefore, I have to check every one of my behaviors, right? Me punching the wall in a room full of guys may get laughed at and be like, you idiot. Me punching a wall in a room with my female partner may be terrifying to her.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying. So I have to pull that warrior in and say, okay, now we're fucking pissed. Now what are we going to do about it? My number one job is to make sure she's safe. So I'm going to take myself outside and we're going to do some push-ups together.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Like a goddamn warrior. Then we're going to come back in and have a conversation like a goddamn adult. So that's how I view it. It's the energetics of Sophie rather than like, my woman doesn't need me to stand outside our bedroom door with a gun and be like, the mouse is back. So I hear candles moving downstairs. Don't worry, babe. You'll be fine. She needs me not to be a prick. She needs me not to be abusive. She needs me not to say, oh, wow, I have all these mommy issues, so let me take them out on you. That's like, you nailed it earlier when you said the warrior archetype is what calls us into our shadows, into the darkness, into the trauma, into the wounds, into all the ways that I'm using her as a salve because the feminine feels so good and I still have some shit left over from being a kid. Yeah. So that's how I think it plays out.
Yeah. I feel this so much because we started this like kind of jokingly, like, why is the warrior so attractive? Because it's insanely attractive, but it's attractive because you feel safe. And 100%. I think you also said this is one of the most important things I ever heard. Like, the feminine is always afraid or is deeply afraid she's physically unsafe, and the masculine is deeply afraid that he's going to be ridiculed.
For sure.
And so there's so much in our system is always checking, like, am I okay? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yes, it's a famous quote. It's actually in my book, so I think it may be Mary Oliver, who said that the number one fear men have is that you'll laugh at us.
Yeah.
The number one fear you have is that we'll kill you.
Yeah.
And that, I remember reading that in Gavin de Becker's book and just sitting down. Like, holy fuck, that is a wildly different human experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So to be around a true warrior that can face his own inner battle and is there and is calm makes that the feminine can actually relax physically. Right. And she's actually safe. Like, why is Ragnar Lothbrok so sexy? Because you know that, like, you're going to be okay when you're around him. And it's not just to the outside world. It's actually between you two. You're going to be okay. He's got himself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean he's confident as fuck. It doesn't mean that he knows who he always is. It doesn't mean that he always takes the lead, but it means that he can own whatever is up in his own system. Mm-hmm. And that's a self-leadership more than anything. So I think that's why the feminine loves the warrior archetype, because she could actually relax. Yeah. And because I think the animals online, and some of the other archetypes, I don't feel the animal as much, but in the warrior, the animal is so fucking present. Mm-hmm. So the darkness is in there. Mm-hmm. And that's yummy. So that's also what you do in your work, like bringing the animal and spirit together. Like, when those can actually coexist, ooh, right? That's the dark and the light that comes together.
Yeah, it feels like Tetris pieces that when they connect, everyone goes, okay, this is truth. This is honesty. I remember being in a workshop maybe last year, and I was a participant, and it was 4 men, 4 women. And it was all shadow work. So it was the crying, the punching the pillows, the screaming, okay, let's talk about abuse, like really, really hardcore stuff that had happened to people. And as the weekend went on, what was so interesting to me as a male was how often the women would say, now we feel more trust around you. Now we feel safer. And this was after guys were admitting the most heinous parts of their lives, the things they had done because they had been sexually violated as kids, they'd been abused as kids, they'd been whatever it was we were talking about. Which, if we take two civilians off the street and say, man and woman, if this guy tells you about being raped as a kid and then having a hardcore pornography addiction, would you trust him more? And they may go, I don't know, that's kind of some weird shit. But in this circle where it was the admittance, where it was the release, where it was the pure transparency, which required the warrior archetype to step in the middle of that circle in front of a group of strangers and scream and cry that out. It was the authenticity that made them feel safe, not the content of their story. And the willingness to just rip their chests open and say, this is my deepest wound. Here, now you see it. Now you know it. So it's not going to sneak up behind you and stab you in the back sometime when we have an argument or I get triggered. Right? It's this transparency that I think the feminine, you tell me, is craves, because you kind of feel it anyway. So if you feel it and I deny it, it's like, well, there's an incongruity here. Either you're wrong, or I'm denying it and I don't know it, or I'm denying it because I don't want you to know it. Either way, we're not coming to the table with true honesty.
Yeah, I feel that. Hey, so for anybody listening to this and they're like, okay, I want this warrior, I want this warrior, I want this warrior on any side of the spectrum. What if you're in your masculine and you want to embody this more and being as masculine as you can? Okay, so now what do I do? How do you embody this or access this or activate it? Or
sure, I'll go back to two. I'll make this inner and outer. The inner world is you make the decision of what I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Is you actually look at your world, or you look at yourself, and you look at your relationships, plural, and say, are people safer because I exist around them? Or are they actually in danger because I exist around them? And that's a wound. That's like, all right, am I going to go down and heal my inner shit? Because after years of shadow work now, I know what happens when I get triggered. I know when I get triggered. I know like the pre-trigger cues. The volume dial slowly gets turned up, as opposed to 5 years ago. It was just like a switch, and now I'm punching walls and screaming. Where now it's like, oh boy, oh shit, okay, I need to go outside. Okay, time. Now we're doing push-ups. So safer. Then the second one is for men, I'll say you need to be training in some capacity. You need to be doing some physical activity, because there is nothing, we are so wired for the physical. Be that push-ups, be that a cold shower in the morning, be that something that lets you go, I have actually prepared for creating safety. Not just mentally, I didn't read a book about it. Like, we're doers. So go do some shit. Start a practice, go to the gym, take a martial art. If you're, and I have guys, Sophie, who ask this, like, well, I'm in a wheelchair. What do I do? Like, then make the fucking decision that even from a wheelchair, you're going to do what you can do if there's an issue that you're needed, or you're going to hold such exquisite space for those around you that they will feel you as a beacon of safety. So inner story, make that decision. People will be safer because they're around me. Outer story, do something about that physically.
I feel this so much. It's honestly like my feminine heart like almost wants to cry, because this is what we miss. Like I'm a bit emotional now, because how often have we felt unsafe around men? And not that actually things go wrong, but just that it's in the air. It's just in the air. And I've been in long-term relationships where it was in the air every day. And there was something in me that was always had to be alert for something that I knew I couldn't defend myself against. And not just the feminine, like walking on the street, like feeling that there's a guy that's like on the verge of like, okay, give me a reason to blow up.
Right.
Thinking it's strength, thinking it's him portraying himself as like powerful.
Right.
when actually it makes everybody around him crumble. Right.
True.
And so I notice I'm moved as you speak, because it's just like this. What a different world we would have.
And how many men would feel a sense of purpose?
Yes.
Right?
That's
In
because
this
I feel like
lost world.
switched on by how you speak. I'm like, yeah, I want to be like my inner masculine is like, yeah, I want to be a beacon of safety, and I want to hold that for everybody, and I want to be that. Yeah, there's purpose.
Right. We as men have been told for 30 years, we don't need you anymore. And so this is the reclamation of, yes, we do. Right. I remember reading a woman, and I think she was in Russia or in somewhere in Eastern Europe, saying we have a very different understanding of the masculine here, because in the past, our history is still being invaded. So yeah, we don't really want a bunch of sensitive new age guys. We need guys who are willing to protect us from what happened like 15 years ago or 5 years ago, or, very recent history. Yet here in the US, it's like, well, we just, we don't need that. But that call, that energy underneath of, okay, now we have a virus. Now we have something in the world that's dangerous. How do we combat that? We can't arm up. We can't go shoot it. We can't punch it in the face. So we can make sure that everybody around us knows that they're going to be safe no matter what happens. And that starts with a personal practice. So meditation, right? But really it's just the mind frame. So if it's calling in that warrior archetype, it's studying it. It's saying, okay, this is a thing. I can't just say I want it and then not do anything with it or not activate it daily. It has to be part of your practice. I go to the gym every goddamn morning for a number of reasons, but one of them is I want to be strong. I want to know that if my strength is required of me, it's there, right? And I'll train for the rest of my life in hopes that it never has to get used. But I can tell you already that there have been a number of times when it has. And so I was so glad I had it. And there have been times when I've actually been face to face with physical confrontation in the last 3-4 years and smiled and walked away from it. And went, I don't need to prove this to you. If you want, Google my fight record, right? I'd rather that than us get in some stupid altercation over a parking space. You win. Yeah, you got it. Good. Go be amazing. I'm going to go have a great day. No one's going to get killed. Nobody's going to get sued. Nobody's going to end up on YouTube. None of this stupid, no one's going to get shot. Like no weird shit's going to happen. I'm great. I know how strong I am. I know how fast I am. I know how good my chokes are. I'm just going to go back in and buy some gluten-free donuts and have a kick-ass day. Take my parking spot. Tough guy.
And catch a mouse.
Yeah, and live in fear of a 6-ounce creature that terrorizes my house at night.
Getting candles. Yeah.
Yeah, a very new age creature.
I'm just trying to make it nicer here. Yeah, I just want to end this, I think, with something my partner always speaks about. He's like, he speaks about this like vision of when the warrior comes home from battle, he sits at this fire and the woman washes his feet. And to just feel that like the warrior doesn't mean that you're always that pillar, that we can also honor the men from the feminine. We can honor the men that are those beacons of safety, and we can see them, and we can, if you want to use the word devote them, but honor them at least, of like, hey, I see you, brother. I see what you're doing. It's also okay right now. Let me wash your feet. So I see what you've done.
Brings me to tears, because you are right. This is a lonely pursuit. I've told men over and over and over again, you have to own the fact that you're going to be different.
Yeah.
You have to own the fact that people may not get you, that you actually choosing to sit with your facing the door. People may think you're weird. People may think you're hyper overreacting, but you just do it anyway. And that the salutation and the respect and the devotion to that is just so like, oh, that's all we need. Like the little pat on the butt. Like, hey, I see you. You're doing great. Boom. That's enough for most men to continue forever. Just that little bit of recognition. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Traver, for this really powerful conversation. Really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. I love it.
If people want to learn more about you, work with you, where can they find you?
My most active platform is Instagram, and it's at Traver Boehm, TraverBoehm, or check my website, manuncivilized.com. That's where I have books, I have courses, I have some fancy t-shirts that you'll look amazing in. I have t-shirts for women. This is a whole new women's line is coming out. I would just like to thank all the women who bought more of my shit than the men have. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you. But yeah, manuncivilized.com or at Traver Boehm.
Yeah, and for sure check out his book. His book is, first of all, my feminine loves is it's gorgeous and sexy as fuck.
Thank you.
And the content is so deep. It's almost like a manifesto of masculinity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Traver, for this.
My pleasure. Truly.